Hello and welcome. I'm Jamie Mogil, President of the League of Women Voters of Lower Merion and Narberth, and a licensed attorney in private practice here in Pennsylvania. I'm honored to serve as the moderator for tonight's program with the judges seeking retention for another term in the Delaware County Court of Common Pleas in the 2025 general election. Thank you to our hosts, the Delaware County Bar Association in media, where we're filming right now. And thank you also to the Delaware County Leagues, the Central Delaware County and Radnor Leagues. For over 100 years, the League of Women Voters has been committed to creating nonpartisan voter education that helps the public be better informed and engaged. As a nonpartisan organization, we neither support nor oppose a party or candidate. But let's talk courts, because that's why we're here tonight. Specifically, the Delaware County Court of Common Pleas. This is the main judicial body for the county, handling a wide variety of matters, including major civil and criminal trials, as well as family and juvenile courts. Pennsylvania is, so how do the judges get there? Pennsylvania is just one of a handful of states where we still elect our judges in partisan elections from the state's highest court, the Supreme Court, down to the county level, the Court of Common Pleas, for 10-year terms. Judicial candidates must meet certain requirements, including being a member of the state bar and a resident of Pennsylvania. And after that initial term, judges can be reelected for additional 10-year terms, retention, until they reach the mandatory retirement age of 75. There is no partisan primary election with retention. Instead, you, the voters, are asked in a general election ballot, simply yes or no, for the judge to be retained for another term. So tonight, we have 3 judges seeking that additional 10-year term to the Delaware County Court of Common Pleas. And they are Judge Anthony D. Scanlon, Judge Margaret J. Amoroso, and Judge Dominic F. Pileggi. So just a quick overview, like rules of the format for our viewers and the judges are aware. Just also to explain the order for which the judges are seated. Judge Scanlon is closest to me, and he is the most senior judge appointed by then Governor Corbett in July 2014 before being elected to a full term, a 10-year term, in 2015, along with Judges Amoroso and Pileggi, and they are seated in alphabetical order. But we will switch the order for answering for the judges to go first, second, and third, respectively, as we go. And I will prompt each judge accordingly so they know who answers first. Each judge will have the same amount of time to respond. The first question is a general question about them, which they know they have 2 minutes to respond, and every other question they will have 90 seconds to respond. There is a timer here to assist myself and the judges. Thank you, Marilyn. And so that's just to make sure we have a nice flow to the presentation. And as I was saying to the judges, I don't need to prod them or remind them about time because they know rules and they like to follow them. Okay, so just a little legal humor there for us. And with that, let's get to why we're here, which is really to hear from the judges. And we're going to start with Judge Scanlon. And our first question is really to hear from you about your journey to the Delaware County Court of Common Pleas, including what led you to the bench and why you're seeking retention.
Okay. I grew up in Springfield, and I still live in Springfield, as did my parents and my wife's parents and my wife. I actually grew up 4 houses away from where my wife grew up. And I'm living with my wife 2 blocks from where we both grew up. So I'm a real cosmopolitan guy. But I went to St. Francis, grade school, Springfield High School, Penn State, undergrad, Widener for MBA, and then Temple Law School. I worked in the city, my first part of my career, the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office. And then I came out to Delaware County. I worked as a assistant public defender, trial division. I was a solicitor for the Mental Health and Drug and Alcohol Commission. I also had my own practice. After that, following that, I spent 14 years there. I then ran for and was elected as magisterial district judge, which is your local little judge in the various townships we have in Springfield again. And I was there for 2 terms. Following my service there for 2 terms, I was, as noted, I was appointed with the by the governor to my term here at the Court of Common Pleas by agreement of the Democrats and Republicans. I ran in 2015 with my esteemed colleagues here in the general election and was supported by both Republicans and Democrats in that 2015 election. I'm running for retention here. And the reason I wanted to become a judge is because my mother beat it into me when I was younger in high school. I wanted to go really to Hawaii to be a surfer, but that night I was supposed to be going to Hawaii and have money for cab fare to get to the terminal. And my mother said, look, I'll buy your car insurance for a year if you go to college. So, and after she yelled at me and cried, so I ended up going to Penn State, and then I am here following all that history. Thank you.
Judge Amoroso, and if you need me to repeat the question.
Got it.
Okay.
I got it. Okay. And I too am born and raised in Delaware County. I grew up in Ridley Township, went to Ridley High School, went to a state college, went to law school at Dickinson. Never occurred to me to be anything but a lawyer, even though I didn't know any lawyers. And I only knew what lawyers did from television. So when I became a lawyer, I did what people do on television. I was a general practitioner. For 33 years, I worked for 2 different law firms, both of which were in the city, although my practice was primarily in Delaware County. I was kind of their satellite office in Delaware County. I did everything except for admiralty and immigration. I did a little bit of everything, which was really hard, really rewarding, and I certainly did learn a lot. So I say I know a little bit about everything. I loved being a lawyer, but I love being a judge more. I can tell you that when I see our system, I think that it works. I never occurred to me to be anything but a lawyer. And for me, becoming a judge seemed to be kind of the general progression. I live in Middletown currently with my husband of 40 some years, and I have 3 children. One of whom is a lawyer. My husband is also a lawyer. Thank you.
And next, Judge Pileggi.
Thank you, Jamie, and thank you to the league for hosting this forum tonight. I was born and raised in the city of Chester, where I still live. I have been practicing law since 1982, before I became a judge. Before I went to law school, I went to Archmere Academy. In fact, we just had our 50th reunion this past Friday. From there, I went to St. Joe's University, majored in economics. After St. Joe's, I went to Villanova. Graduated there in 1982. I practiced law in Ridley Township with my father, who was a general practitioner. We had a general practice, I'd say a general civil practice. We did very little criminal law. About 10 years into practicing law, I got involved in public service. I was elected official in the city of Chester, including serving as mayor of the city of Chester. Then I was elected to the state senate, representing the 9th district, which goes from the Maryland border through to the border of Ridley Township and north as far as Middletown, I'd say, maybe Thornbury, depending on where you're looking at the map. I did that for 13 years. In 1982, I decided not to run for re-election, instead to run for the Court of Common Pleas. And been a very enjoyable transition. I've spent 5 years in the family court, and now the last 5 years look forward to your questions.
Okay, great. Well, now we're going to move on. Just a reminder, everything from now on, 90 seconds. And again, you'll be prompted about the timing from Marilyn. So next we'll go to Judge Amoroso. What qualities and characteristics do you possess that you believe make you a good judge?
Patience and compassion. Nothing in our world moves quickly. And I tell our jurors when I talk to them, nothing, even a continuance, and you're a lawyer, you're going to know, even a continuance, which is just getting a new date, takes us 15 minutes. Compassion. And honestly, I feel compassion for some of the many of the defendants who come in front of me, some of which who have mental health problems, some of which who have had really, really traumatic lives. Not all of them, some are just bad, but that is not what I generally see. What I see is people who deserve our compassion.
And Judge Pileggi, I'm going to ask you the same.
I think probably the strongest attribute that I bring to the bench is the ability to remain calm and not to get excited, either angry or happy or high or low. When listening to cases and presiding over the cases, it's easy to get emotional, but I think people in the courtroom will see that and try and interpret those clues. And I agree with Judge Amoroso. Patience is absolutely necessary to be able to listen to both sides before making a decision and be able to hear what both sides have to say.
And Judge Scanlon?
Yeah, I would agree with everything that Judge Amoroso and Judge Pileggi said. I think the two things that are important in a courtroom are respect and fairness. Respect for everybody who is before you, no matter what their station in life is, and fairness to allow people to present their case and for the fact finder to hear them. When we sit as judges, sometimes we sit as judges as fact finders when we do a bench trial. Other times we sit as a trial judge when the jury is the fact finder. When I was a magistrate district judge in Springfield, I was always the fact finder. And the one thing I've noticed in court in my career is people want to be heard. Even if they're guilty, innocent, if they're liable, not liable, they want the opportunity to present their case. And if you give people the opportunity to present their case, now sometimes they don't have a lot of facts on their side, sometimes they don't have a law on their side. But if you respect them and give them a fair opportunity for them to present their case, I think you're doing your job as a judge.
Thanks. Now we'll move on and we'll start with Judge Pileggi. After being on the bench for a decade, and well, Judge Scanlon a little over a decade, please discuss improvements to the function and running of the courts. And since you are seeking another 10-year term, what further improvements would you like to see?
Well, I think each division of the court is very different and what most people don't understand, and even lawyers until they become judges, is the administration of the courts in general is decided by the president judge, and our president judges serve 5-year terms. So I've served now under my 3rd president judge. As far as individual judges, they are responsible for their courtrooms and for the cases that are assigned to them. And I know when I was in family law, it's a very emotional area of the law, and it's important to expedite the cases as quickly as possible. And I think in our caseload, the caseload that I managed, we were very responsive to people and the timelines that were involved in the family law cases. In criminal cases, there is a mandatory, what's called Rule 600, which cases need to be brought to trial within 365 days. We handle in my chambers, my courtroom, about 400 cases. And we have a pretty good system. And as far as innovations, we're just starting electronic filing probably in the last 2 months that's been implemented, which is a major step forward.
We have a issue, and all government sectors have an issue with fair funding for the courts. We have had tight budgets in the last couple of years for many reasons, but the courts need to have fair funding to make sure everybody, all the participants in the system, can have fair hearing in front of them. So I think we need more funding, fair funding for the courts. The other thing is that, again, when we do jury trials, there's two types of trials, both civil, which I'm in now, and I wasn't good one for a long time. We do jury trials and bench trials. So the bench trial is not as important that you maintain a time frame, because you're pretty much the whole show. You're the fact finder, the judgment decider. But with juries, I think we need to tighten up our protocols and our procedures in jury trials. Too long, people are sitting in the jury rooms waiting forever to go to the courtroom, and too long for the management of the trial. We have to make sure the trials be managed correctly and the jurors are not wasting their time in the courtrooms.
Like I said, everything in my world takes forever. And so if there are ways for us to make things move more quickly, yes, in the 10 years that I've been on the bench, have we used more electronic evidence? We have. Do we have the facilities that smoothly allow that to happen? We don't. We have a very old building, which is a beautiful building, and our courtrooms look exactly the way you would expect them to look, but they were not built anticipating that we would have videos or photographs that we are going to publish by electronic means. So I do think we need to figure out how to integrate the electronic evidence a little more smoothly, because no matter how many times we practice it before it's shown to the jury, when we do it, it still doesn't work. The other thing is we need to, what I would like to see is what we do in our family court, which is text message to defendants about hearing dates. We waste an awful lot of time and effort when people forget to show up. I don't want to issue a bench warrant. I don't want to go through the whole process. I want them to come. I want us to move forward as quickly as you.
Thank you. Okay, well, we've kind of somewhat touched on, some of you have touched on this next topic, and we're gonna turn back around to Judge Scanlon. The court can be a highly charged atmosphere. People come before you in what could be characterized for some of them, maybe the worst moments of their life, where their liberty could be at stake. For some of you, it could be a child custody dispute over their children. And, it really comes down to how do you maintain control and composure in the courtroom with such high emotions and so much at stake?
Yeah, I think that in my experience, I never served in family. I've always been a criminal, basically, and civil. My experience is, and I think it's important, that's why I said earlier, respect. You can't let any one party intimidate anybody else in the court, whether it's witnesses, defendants, respondents, parties, or lawyers. I think it's our job as judges to make sure that no one oversteps their bounds and tries to intimidate a witness or another lawyer or anybody else in the courtroom. So that's the judge's role, to make sure everybody is following the rules as far as respect for each other. The other thing too is, and I did this, and my judges here will agree with me. I know it's a stressful environment, and I try and give the parties before me enough time to take breaks, talk to their attorneys, and give them as much time as they need to prepare and be ready for court. I also try and use humor where I can, because I think sometimes a little levity in the court, a little bit of humor, and loosening up the court can keep people from being so tight and stressed out. that they are not having meaningful court experience.
And Judge Amoroso?
I did sit in family, and family law is by far the most volatile court. When I was in family law, that was the court where you are more likely to get threats from people. You might not think that's where you're going to get it, but it is. And you often don't have lawyers, which makes it even more difficult. Pro se clients or not clients, litigants who don't have attorneys, don't know the rules. They don't know what I can and cannot do. And so sometimes they're asking me to do things that I don't really have the power to do. So I like being in criminal because I have lawyers. 99% of the time I have lawyers. And most of the lawyers who appear in front of me are very good at controlling their clients because they want to control their clients. As far as me controlling my courtroom, look, I'm controlling the lawyers. And I think that my reputation of being patient, but there is a point at which you're not there on time and ready to go, then there are going to be consequences. So I think that letting the lawyers know what you expect is a way to control the courtroom.
Judge Pileggi?
Well, for most people, when they come into court, they're nervous, they're stressed. They don't really know what to expect. On the other hand, in the criminal courts, on any given Monday, I'll have 100 cases that are scheduled to be heard, and there'll be well over 100 people in the courtroom. So every judge does this differently, but what I think is critically important is that when people have their moment, when their case is called, that the courtroom is quiet, that we can hear what they're saying. They have enough time. The attorneys in criminal court, the defendants don't speak much in the criminal court, but the attorneys have an opportunity to lay out, both the defense attorney and the district attorney, what the issue is that they're presenting. And it's done in an orderly, calm fashion, and that everyone feels like they've had an opportunity to say what they need to say. And then there's a prompt decision on what the next step is. So that's the critical thing. And every judge tries to accomplish that same thing. They have different manners, different ways of doing it. But it's a lot of moving parts in a courtroom. You have deputy sheriffs, you have defendants, you have the court officers, you have the court clerks, you have the lawyers for both sides, assistants to the lawyers. So it's up to the judge to manage that process in an orderly fashion.
Next, I'm going to ask about impartiality, very important. So as a jurist, and we're going to start with Judge Amoroso. As a jurist, you are to be impartial and make decisions without regards to politics, party affiliation, public opinion. However, you're put in a tough spot because you also need to be elected, even for retention for another term. And we've also seen outside money, especially on spending campaigns, which seek to influence judicial elections. So again, this puts you in that tough spot where you're impartial, you're on the bench, but you also have to seek re-election. So how do you maintain your independence and impartiality as a judge? And maybe if you can share a couple examples.
Me first?
Yeah.
My involvement with politics was really in becoming a judge. I mean, my involvement prior to that was pretty limited to doing kind of what you guys do. Giving out literature, giving out information. So in terms of being impartial, I actually don't find it to be particularly difficult. The truth is, when people, I used to think that I might know the answer before they even started to talk. The longer I sit as the judge, the more I realize that I want to hear both sides. I want to hear them tell me. And when I have quandary, I will look at the statute. When it came to, I remember early on in sentencing, I really had a quandary about where I was going with sentencing. I looked up the statute and it said that my sentences should take into account punishment, protection, and helping. And that's what I think of. So in discretionary areas, which is in sentencing, that's what I think of. That's what comes to my mind, not anything else.
And Judge Pileggi?
Broad question, but let me comment first on the idea of retention. We're running for retention. We're not running as Republicans. We're not running as Democrats. And the whole idea of retention, when it was put into the Constitution in 1968, was that take politics out of the judicial branch as much as possible. Unfortunately, recent years, not just this election, but the last election, and just somewhat the election before that, there's been an attempt to turn retention elections into partisan elections without the political parties having two separate candidates. I think the idea of impartiality and fairness has not been an issue in the criminal courts or in the family courts. When people are represented by their attorneys, it's a very open process. Everything that's said in the courtroom, everything that's done in the courtroom is recorded. If anyone thinks that there is partiality or favoritism because of political affiliation or financial or relationship or whatever reason, the normal practice is that there's communication to the judge about that, and there's either the judge recuses himself or the attorneys agree that it goes forward. So it has not been an issue in my tenure.
Thank you. And Judge Scanlon?
I think, and when I ran as MDJ here, you have to be able to judge, to be able to say no to people you like, people that may have some influence, people may be powerful. You have to be able to say no. And also, when you have a case where impartiality may be an issue, my practice and all our practices, I have full disclosure with the attorneys in front of me, all the parties. I just want to let you know that I know this person from Philadelphia, or I know this person from working in the mental health area, and then I let them know the full background and see if there's an issue. But you have to be able to say no to important people, and you have to be able to say yes to people you may not like. There may be somebody you may not particularly like because of whatever reason, but if they're right on the law and they're right on the facts, you got to be able to say yes to them. The other thing is that you can't be skewed any particular way. You've got to be right down the center. I remember I had a case with the district attorney and defense attorney in the back. They were seeing if I would go bench trial or something, and they were trying to feel me out. They feel the judges out sometimes. And after we were done talking, they both said, you know what, I don't know which way Judge Scanlon's going to go. He never goes one way, he never goes another way. And to them, I said, thank you for the compliment.
And certainly that's kind of going into this next question, which is it's stressful, but it's tough because the judiciary and really our government is under threats, both specifically the judiciary for both ideological as well as physical. You mentioned Judge Amoroso, physical threats that really seek to undermine people's trust in the administration of justice, in the judiciary, period. How do you think we can ensure the integrity or further get people's trust in the judicial system?
Judge Williams?
Yes, Judge Pileggi's first.
Well, unfortunately, we're not in the news and the press. Certainly can't make broad statements, accusations about individual cases or judges. But I think the best remedy for that, and it's very possible at the local level, I don't think that's a Delaware County problem. Delaware County is a small county. All of us have spent our entire lives in Delaware County. I've been in the same house for the last 40 years. So people know us and they know what we do. And as I tell people to come into my courtroom, the courthouse is open. You can come in, you can spend 5 days a week watching what we do. There's no secrets. Some of it, very small amount of it, gets published in the local newspapers. So I think openness and transparency in what we do, the fact that people know who we are, I think that all contributes to confidence and here at the local level. But I really don't think there's a lack of confidence in the Delaware County judiciary. I think when you read the national press and you see all of the accusations of, this judge is a Democratic judge, a Republican judge, a liberal judge, a conservative judge, that's generally in the appellate courts and the higher profile cases in the federal courts.
That was a good cutoff. I just want to say, thank you. Thank you.
You were good as a team.
Yeah.
So I think you have to have integrity and strength of character if you're a judge. That means you can't be scared of the parties in front of you. If you're intimidated or you're scared, don't run for judge, because this job has a lot of pressure to it, and there's a lot of people that will give direct threats or indirect threats to a judge or other parties in the system. So you have to have the strength of character to be able to do your job, and I know we all have that. That's reflected in the courtroom. The participants in front of you will notice what kind of weaknesses or strengths you have, and if you show a weakness, it'll be to your downfall and the downfall of the system. Also, I trust the enforcement agencies we have. I've had a few times when the DA's office wanted to charge somebody, and I said, "Nah, don't worry about it. I live as Judge Pileggi. I live in the same. I'm only 2 blocks away from where I grew up. I don't feel any fear in the courtroom. I'm not going to be intimidated, and I'm going to stand up for myself in the courtroom and the law we're supposed to represent."
Judge Amoroso?
I agree with Judge Pileggi. I don't know that there is a lack of trust in the judiciary. And my idea about how to make people trust it more would be to have them participate more. I almost wish I could make everyone act as a juror. Every time I talk to jurors after they have served, not when they're sitting around waiting for us, but after they've served, every single time they have said, "I am glad I did it. And it was a lot harder than I thought it would be." And it doesn't matter whether it is a retail theft or a homicide. I'm telling you that our jurors do exactly what we expect them to do. So when I talk to them, I am gratified that our system, I can tell you from where I sit, our system works. Is it perfect? Heck no. Can we always do better? And should we always try and do better? Yes. But I believe in our system and I see it work every day. So I wish more people could see what I see.
Okay. I think I move on to
Yeah.
absolutely. And our final 3 questions. Your job, as we've noted, is very stressful and can often follow you home even when you don't have the robe on in the courtroom. What do you do to make sure that you maintain your own health and well-being so that you can be the most present when you are in the courtroom?
Well, I think every judge should have healthy hobbies and interests outside the judgeship. I have a great family. I know we all do. It's important to be a family person. We have our first granddaughter this year. She's great. So we spend a lot of time with granddaughter. I also used to play the sax until I injured my carpal tunnel syndrome. But I try. I'm a member of the Avalanche String Band. I try and have outside interests to take the pressure away from the pressure I feel in the courtroom. Devoted mainly to my family, my outside interests. I'm still trying to serve I hurt myself surfing also recently, but I try to surf, I play the Avalon string band, I try and use the outside interest to take the pressure off me and my family's, my granddaughter's great, my family's great, I enjoy it, and that takes the pressure off my judicial pressure from the court.
I don't have any outside hobbies. No, I certainly do not have enough outside hobbies to not want to continue to do what I do. I wish I surfed or skied or played golf. I don't. And I might be a little too old to start skiing. In any case, my way of dealing with it, and having been a general practitioner, my way of dealing with it is to be super organized. Any day of the week, you can walk into my office and there will be one pile on the right-hand side, and those are the things that I have to address, and they're for me to address. I have another pile on the left with it just reading, but there is not extraneous stuff all over my office. I keep a list. I'm organized, and that for me is a way of dealing with it, so that when I take the bench. And the one thing that I figured out once I started being a judge was when I am on the bench, that's the only thing I could do. That is the one that, and so when I am there, that is all I am doing, is doing what is in front of me. So for me, being organized, being prepared keeps me from becoming overwhelmed by it.
Judge Pileggi?
Well, I really don't think being a judge is as stressful as some people, as your question might indicate, it might be. There are a lot of people, I think, that have much more stressful jobs than judges, but to the extent there's any stress, I would start with the fact that I've been married for over 40 years to the same woman. And so I have the benefit of a wonderful wife and a stable sort of home life that that's where balance starts. We're blessed with 3 beautiful grandchildren. We spend some time with them. We do some traveling. I enjoy working in the yard, especially in weather like today. So it's a fairly, I'm not a skydiver or anything like that. So it's a pretty sedate kind of life. It's not an issue for me. Maybe an issue for some people.
All right, well, we're not asking you to jump from a plane. You don't need to do
Thank
that.
goodness.
Yeah, I've thought about doing that, and then
Me too.
I take it back. Okay, no. Well, Delaware County is extremely a diverse place, and the people that come before you vary, whether that's race, religion, income level, or so on. How do you make sure that, or how can we make sure that you as a judge, that there's still equitable and equal access to irrespective of their background when they come before you in the courtroom? Yes, you're up. You're up.
Okay. Well, look, I'm in criminal now. Well, when I was in family, one way was to allow pro se litigants, that is litigants without lawyers, to actually have their say to a significant extent. It's really hard when you have people who do not have lawyers. In criminal, we always have lawyers, and their access to a lawyer is really not limited, except by perhaps their own opinions about perhaps a lawyer that might be assigned to them. If it's through the public defender's office. And look, I tell people all the time, look, your public defender is a good attorney and who is perfectly capable of dealing with your case and who is in my courtroom day after day. So in terms of allowing them access, I got to tell you, I don't even know people's economic background when they come in front of me. I rarely have that information. So, I don't think that if, they come in front of me, routinely, and I don't think that there's anything that, and I don't think that there's anything that I'm doing that allows them to, equitably, access our criminal justice system.
Judge Pileggi?
Well, I was born and raised in the city of Chester, and I still live there. And most people in Delaware County consider that one of the more diverse, challenged communities in the county. Before I was a judge, I dealt with some of the most powerful, wealthiest people in the state. So I don't think I have any problem in understanding the backgrounds of the people that come before me. And as Judge Amoroso said, in the criminal courts, most of the defendants that come in front of you are not the highest income, most influential people, although some high income people, many high income people do get caught up in the criminal justice system. The majority of the people that are charged are of lower incomes or moderate incomes. In fact, in family court and in criminal court, I end up knowing a lot of the people that appear before me, or their parents or grandparents or relatives, and as Judge Scanlon said, when that happens, a lot of times I won't recognize them. They'll say something to their lawyer, and we'll put it on the record, and we'll say it, and it's all recorded, and give the attorneys a chance to say whether they want me to hear the case or not. And I think in 5 years, there's only one attorney that said he'd rather that I transfer the case to another judge. So I don't think that's a problem, my brother.
I agree with you. Delaware County is a very diverse, richly diverse county compared to some of the other counties in Pennsylvania. And we know that because we all grew up here. When I have a participant in the courtroom, if I try and understand them, if I don't, I let them educate me about the issues that are important to them, whether it be a witness, not necessarily a defendant in a criminal trial, because these most times do not take a stand, sometimes they do. But if I don't know enough about the participants in front of me, and they wish me to understand their issues, their lifestyles, I will actually ask and try and get an understanding of their background, their religion, and the issues that may affect their ability to be in the court system. I actually, when I was in criminal, the last couple of years, I actually had in my courtroom and had in my chambers a Quran, a couple of Qurans, because I found that we had Muslim jurors, and they did not want to put their hand on the Bible, Christian Bible. So I had in my courtroom and in my chambers copies of the Quran, and they're more comfortable swearing on the Quran than they are on the Bible. And by the same token, if I had another religion who was more comfortable with a religious text, I would use that religious text to honor and respect their background.
Well, thanks. I can't believe it. We're at the end, and our final question. And it's really, we talked about some hobbies, but this last one is really, if you have, we just asked you to please share with us, and I think we're starting with Judge Pileggi, a personal story or achievement, or you can talk about a hobby that you'd like to share with us so we can get a sense of who you are and your value. Yes, it's Judge.
That's a tough question.
The one that we thought would be like.
I really don't enjoy talking about myself, or something that. As I said, I live a pretty even life, and it's a very public life, and conventional in many ways. And there's what you see is what you get. I try, to be open and transparent about what I do and why I do it. Enjoy being a judge. I think as much as I don't like talking about myself, or trying to say what's good about me, I think the best thing that I can say is ask people who appear in our courtrooms. I say this for all of us. whether they're lawyers or litigants or defendants or sheriffs or park police, people that are in the system that see us day to day, what their opinions are, whether they think we're doing a good job as judges. I don't think it's, I don't put much stock in when people say what's great about them. It just doesn't strike me the right way, and I don't want to be one of those people.
Well, as I indicated, I try and have some hobbies, and I'm going to talk about the Avalon string band. Okay, as you can see here, I have carpal tunnel syndrome from playing the saxophone. But last year I joined this Avalon string band because if you're from the Philadelphia area, you're Delaware County, you've got string bands in your heart, and we've always loved the string bands, my family. So it was a stupid mistake I made because for a year I've been trying to play the saxophone, and I've actually injured myself. But I went down to the Avalon String Band there in Philadelphia, and these guys are just great guys. They're professionals who are really into the mummers. I didn't realize how much time and effort is involved in this string band, but I'm going to pursue it. I'm going to end up playing that saxophone. I'm going to wear feathers on New Year's Day, as long as my granddaughter and wife don't need me, and I will overcome this. And I'm a terrible sax player, but I'm getting better.
Okay, well, so look, I came from, you know what? I was really proud to become a lawyer. I came from a family of 6. My father was a blue collar worker. Of the 6 of us, I was the first and the only to go to college, let alone go to law school. And it was during a time when there was still that wait, like my siblings would tease me like, oh, you must be really into women's lib because you're going to go to college. And you, Jamie, don't know that because you're so much younger. But there was that part of, look, when I first started practicing, women did not wear pants in court. We did not wear pants in court. So I was really proud to become a lawyer, and to become a judge was the icing on the cake for me. I love doing it. I also say I've raised 3 kids, all of whom have their own health insurance plans. So I consider that a huge accomplishment also. So I would love to continue, and I hope that we will all be voted yes. Thank you.
So that concludes, and I'll just do a quick wrap up to say thank you to the judges and remind everybody, I hope if you've made it through this long, you do know that your election day is coming up. You may even have already received your ballot. So whether you want to vote by mail, or that you're going to vote in person, it's good. We have options. Some prefer one over the other, but it's good. We have options. Election day in person, November 4th. And we encourage you, please, to go to vote411.org. That's the league's one-stop shop for all your election information you need. You can put in your address, see all of the candidates running, including the judicial candidates here for retention, or they are judges running for another 10-year term. And thank you again to the leagues of Delaware County, the Central Delaware County, and to the Delaware County Bar Association. Thank you so much.